Welcome back, guys, to Cal Crypto. I'm Caleb, here to bring you this cryptocurrency YouTube video. So today we're going to talk about some general news in the space, mostly revolving around Bitcoin. Also, we have a really interesting article on the Federal Reserve and how they're planning on rolling out a central digital banking currency, which if you guys aren't familiar with, it's actually pretty terrifying. So we'll run into that. But first, we're going to dive into the Bitcoin price and just check out what's going on in the space. So as you guys can see, like we talked about yesterday, if Bitcoin failed to stay above this line of support, we were most likely going to go down to the 41,000 level. Luckily, that does not look like the case. We've bounced off of it 4 times, and we actually 5 now. And it looks like we might retest it once more before we start going higher. So that's good news for Bitcoin, right? If you guys are sitting on the sidelines and thinking, I'm waiting on this dip, now might be the time to buy. Not financial advice, but I would be buying right now. I might be buying right now. Ethereum, we'll go over Ethereum real quick. It looks like it tried to retest these levels and get back above and start climbing again. It got rejected. When I say rejected, guys, it means that it tried and it bounced off, and it tried and it bounced off, because on the opposite, when an asset on its chart dips below a line of support, when it tries to come back up, it acts as resistance. So you can see how this line, this 1695 level, was actually helping us out hold above. Once it broke through, and now that it has to climb back above, it's acting as a ceiling resistance. So we'll see what Ethereum does in the next few days. It might come down and retest 1453. If you guys are currently waiting to get into Ethereum, I would just let things settle, see what's going on, and then take it from there. Don't rush in anything. I think you guys will have some good buying opportunities upcoming pretty soon. But let's get into this news. So first, we have Klarna's CEO is deeply worried about tweets promoting Bitcoin and thinks regulators should step in. This guy is a CEO of a European fintech company, I believe. Yep, European fintech company. And he is deeply worried about the promotions people use on Twitter and social media to gather people's interest in cryptocurrency. So you guys are probably familiar with Elon Musk. He's a troll sometimes. He tweets about Dogecoin, but he's not serious. He put Bitcoin on his balance sheet, so you can assume that he's pretty serious about that. But for most of the time, guys, like if you're following celebrities and what they're tweeting about Dogecoin, like Mia Khalifa, Gene Simmons, I mean, they're great people. I have nothing against them, but they don't know much about cryptocurrency if they're buying Dogecoin. Dogecoin was actually created by an Adobe employee that I used to work with, and it was meant to be a meme. It was meant to be a joke. Like people would tip each other Doge as like, haha, that was pretty funny. Here's a Dogecoin. Like it's not meant to be serious. It's a coin with infinite amounts of supply. Like every so and so time period, a million X amount of Doge are minted. So it's actually impossible for it to gain value, because as you guys know, in our economic society, scarcity equals value, and it just can't happen. If you're getting millions and millions of coins added all the time, how's that going to work? It's not. And he was actually given death threats to cap the supply of Doge, and he had given up on that project long ago because the cryptocurrency space had ran him out for his meme on cryptocurrency. But anyway, guys, on this subject of Twitter promotion, don't always just be on Twitter and go, hey, Elon Musk said buy Bitcoin, so I'll buy Bitcoin. Yeah, Elon Musk is a really smart guy, no denying that whatsoever. And he did bet for Bitcoin, put it on its corporate balance sheet as a hedge against inflation and the declining value of the US dollar. But it's still up to you guys to decide, like, is Bitcoin the right investment for me? And we talked about that in our previous videos. And it just kind of depends on your risk tolerance and what you can stomach and what you are willing to bet. on Bitcoin and what you think the benefits of Bitcoin could be. And if you don't know how Bitcoin works and you guys want to see a video on that, I'd love to do that. But if you haven't learned what Bitcoin is, it's super simple. There's actually a really, really great video on YouTube by, I think, 3 Blue, 1 Brown. He's a programmer and he explains it very well. But anyway, back on this. He said he sees people on Twitter saying, buy now, you're going to miss the biggest opportunity of your life. I tend to agree with that, but I don't want to, pump these Twitter tweets up too much. It has surged more than 400% in the last 12 months, with backers pointing to increased demand for institutional buyers. Bitcoin's climb has reminded some of the market watchers of its monster rally in 2017, which took the digital coin to 20,000, only to shed 80% of its value the next year. Yeah, guys, it's true. We talked about this in the very first video, market cycles. We'll see if this market's different, but I would not be surprised to see Bitcoin reach a top this year and shed 50, 60% of its value. That's just how a new asset class works. So basically that's it on the fear, uncertainty, doubt news. This guy is just concerned that, people are pumping up Bitcoin on Twitter that have influence. And honestly, I tend to agree with him. It is true. Next up, we have Bitcoin plunges 18% as investors grow wary of record-breaking rally. Of course, guys. I mean, if you invest in Bitcoin at 58,000, I do think it will go higher there. And I think you're better off just holding your Bitcoin, but things don't just move straight up. Like, you have to pull back. And if you don't understand why, it's because when an asset goes straight up, people start to wonder as it climbs and climbs and climbs, is this a fair market value price? And the buyers start to cool off. And then it starts to reach a stagnant point where it's almost like a roller coaster and it's hanging there in the balance. And it's going to need some sort of velocity or momentum to keep it going up, or it's just going to come back down. So when this happens and Bitcoin goes from 58,000 to 45,000, what that does is that allows people who might have been waiting with fresh capital on the side to go, hey, this is my chance, throw my money in. And then we go down and we go back up. It attracts new buyers. It brings new liquidity to the market. And it's super healthy, guys. It's necessary for what Bitcoin needs to do. And it's necessary for any asset. I would honestly be wary of anything that just constantly goes up, like the stock market. But we won't get into that. It says Bitcoin slumped as much as 18% to 45,000 on Tuesday before slightly pairing losses. Talks about other altcoins. It talks about investors being kind of, on the fence about this rally because tech stocks are also tumbling. So basically just goes into the fact that people are weary now that Bitcoin has reached these levels and has pulled back. Like, it hasn't happened a million times, guys. And I know that people who are fresh to the space aren't used to that, but just know that if you invest in Bitcoin, you will see a 20% pullback at some point in your portfolio. And if you just don't worry about it, you're going to be fine. The data has proved that for 12 years. Don't worry about it. Don't freak out. Just, if you want to get in more and make your cost average better, then you can do that. But as long as you just hold and you don't panic sell, then you'll be fine. Selling on emotions never works out, guys. I've done it. Terrible idea. I've regretted it every time. It's never worked out well for me. So that's pretty much it on this. They just talk about on CNBC how, the Treasury Secretary, Mrs. Yellen, if you're not familiar with her, she also has spread a lot of FUD, which is fear, uncertainty, doubt, that Bitcoin is, an extremely inefficient way of conducting transactions. Maybe because you guys put regulations on it that taxes me when I transact with it. But hey, and the amount of energy that is consumed in processing those transactions. Another Bitcoin myth, guys. Bitcoin uses renewable energy for a lot of its mining because that's what makes sense for the miners. The miners and their main cost of when they're discovering Bitcoin on the blockchain is electricity. So if you had a business and your one biggest expense was a certain thing, and you could find a way to do that thing much, much cheaper, would you do it? Yes, you would. That's the same thing with miners. If they can find electricity that it's renewable, then they'll use it. So yes, it's not the greatest, most energy efficient thing right now because I'm not sure. I've seen as much as 40% of Bitcoin's mining is done on renewables, which is great, but we need to move that to 100, one for the miner's sake, and two for the planet's sake. So I get that rumor a lot about how Bitcoin's super energy, inefficient and it's going to destroy the world and its carbon footprint, blah, blah, blah. But that's just more FUD, guys. That's just more FUD. So moving on. Bitcoin tumbles below 50,000. Kathy Wood eyes the dip. So if you guys don't know who Kathy Wood is, she is I believe the CEO of Ark Investments. Ark Investments is a pretty big firm that has been doing a lot of case studies on Bitcoin and how if 1% of every S&P 500 allocated their cash, if every S&P company allocated 1% of their cash reserves to Bitcoin, then it would increase the Bitcoin price by roughly $40,000 from its current price, which at the time was $45,000. So she's done a lot of case studies on Bitcoin, and she's kind of aggregating all this data to give us a good picture of what we could possibly see. And as you can see here, she says, we're very positive on Bitcoin, very happy to see a healthy correction here. No market goes straight up. I know, guys, crazy, right? Kathy Wood said this in a Bloomberg interview. She did not disclose whether Ark made a purchase. Guys, Ark is going to buy. Apple's going to buy. All of these companies are going to buy because it's a hedge, and everyone wants this new digital gold. And even though, like, as a person who believes in Bitcoin's original vision, it wasn't meant to be a store of value, that's what it is right now, guys. And that's what it's going to be until it evolves into its next phase. And I think it will evolve, but I think right now it's seen as a digital gold because that is how it's treated by the SEC. If you sell Bitcoin, it's treated like a commodity. If you transact in Bitcoin, it's taxed. Like if Bitcoin was considered a currency, one, that would compete with the US dollar. They don't like that. Two, you wouldn't be getting taxed if you transacted with it. And three, honestly, right now, Bitcoin's too slow to transact on a global scale, and it's much too volatile. But that's why we're going to need price stabilization. We're going to need Lightning Network, and we're going to need to speed up the transactions of Bitcoin and make them cheaper for all before you can go buy a cup of coffee, as they all say. So you have naysayers, of course. It's a pure speculative asset. I disagree. I mean, you can speculate on anything. That's what all these markets are. That's what the S&P is. That's what the Dow Jones is. That's what the NASDAQ is. It's all speculation. I speculate that this company will earn this amount of revenue by this quarter that will go up this much in price. Speculation. I speculate Bitcoin will destroy the US dollar and become the world reserve currency of the world. And that's all these markets. So that's the worst argument. I've been seeing this argument for so long, and it's just not valid. It's speculative. Of course, everything's speculative. If you're in any kind of market, it's speculative. But enough of my rant there. Moving on. Bitcoin bounces back, surging above 50,000 after more buying from Square. Surprise, surprise, guys. Square bought more Bitcoin. Bitcoin climbed back above 50,000 on Wednesday after a brutal sell-off earlier this week. Jack Dorsey's Square said Tuesday that it had bought $170 million worth of the cryptocurrency. Guys, at an average price of, I think, 51K. So if Square is buying it at 51K, where do you think they think it's going to go? A lot higher. A lot higher. Talks about how Bitcoin, sold off, rallied up again as the news came out. But I think that honestly, that Bitcoin was just going to flow back up to 50,000 naturally. But these media outlets always have to look for a reason for why this and this happened. I agree, it's bullish, it's great, but I think Bitcoin was naturally going to climb above 50,000 anyway. Talks about XRP, which I do not care for. My opinion, guys, if you hold XRP, I'm not trying to offend you. It's just, if you're in cryptocurrency, why would you own a digital coin that is centralized and not a cryptocurrency? Yep, it says that it announced a purchase of 3,300 Bitcoins at an average price of about 51,200. So that just shows me that Square obviously believes that Bitcoin will go higher than 51,000. So if you guys are worried about buying, and you continue worrying about buying, guess who's going to buy for you? These guys. They don't care to buy. They don't care if they buy a $50,000 Bitcoin, a $100,000 Bitcoin, because they have analysts telling them, you guys need to buy this now. And Jack Dorsey's just an extremely smart individual, so he's going to buy it regardless. But Jack Dorsey believes that it will eventually become the single currency of the internet. I mean, guys, these are tech leaders. Michael Saylor is an engineer from MIT. Jack Dorsey owns Twitter and Square. These guys have an inclination for technological advancement, and you should probably at least look at what they're doing, because it's pretty valid. And once you learn about this technology, it makes more and more sense. So it talks about Janet Yellen, of course, and Elon Musk, but nothing that important. It says Bitcoin's up still more than 70% year to date and over 400% in the last 12 months. 4x, guys. We're going to see a lot higher than that. Just talks about, people playing with too much of their money. Our personal choices. This is America. I can do as I please. I do worry about potential losses that investors can suffer, as this gentleman right here stated. Yeah, guys, like I said in my first video, you can lose everything. I stand by that. Do I think that's plausible? Possible? No. But regardless, be aware and know what you're investing. Next, let's do this one. The SEC Commissioner, Hester Pierce, has been pushing for a Bitcoin ETF. If you guys don't know what an ETF is, it's an exchange traded fund. It would mean that people would be able to buy Bitcoin as part of like this basket of investments. So people have these S&P ETFs, and they, instead of picking single companies from the S&P, you just buy the S&P, and the overall S&P, if it goes up, your ETF goes up. They're super popular. They're super safe because they are so diversified, and they're trying to make Bitcoin much safer for retail investors to invest in without having to be exposed directly to the asset. And there's a lot of people who are like, I don't know how to invest in cryptocurrencies. I don't know what exchange to go to. And it is confusing at first. So this is just another medium that would get people into the space super easily. And it would kind of cut out all the noise of, hard wallets and transfers and wallet IDs and hooking up your bank account. Like, it's a faster way to on-ramp people into Bitcoin. So she's known as the crypto mom, which I think is pretty funny. She talks about how if we don't give them the natural way, which I think would be an ETP, they are going to look for other less optimal ways to do it. So she's saying that people will take on more risk because there's no one giving them a product and service that keeps them safe. She also pushed back in her interview against an emerging government narrative that cryptocurrency is a dangerous rail for terrorist financing. Guys, less than 0.04% is used for illicit activities. Remember that. She cast doubt on the size of the alleged problem and insisted there was no way to ban Bitcoin outright, because you can't ban Bitcoin, guys. If anyone tells you Bitcoin's going to get banned, then if you know how Bitcoin works, that just doesn't make sense. You can't just go around and destroy every single Bitcoin node that is hosting the network. And it hasn't worked before. It doesn't work in China. It hasn't worked in India. It's not going to work here. Bitcoin can't be banned. It will slow down its growth rate, but it cannot be banned. Pierce says she looks forward to working with the SEC chairman nominee, Gary Gensler, once the former MIT digital currency professor. So people are really stoked on Gary because that exact thing. He knows the space, he knows the benefits, he's for it. So I think with these two working together, we could see a American Bitcoin ETF or ETP. You saw Canada made one, and they did $420 million in funds in the first 2 days. And the US, I think, is 30 times bigger as far as volume. So it would be insane, guys. This would be insane. If we got news that there is a Bitcoin ETF, just welcome to a 10% green day on the market. So that's pretty much all I've got, guys, for Bitcoin news. We'll finish it up with this with my guy here, Jerome Powell, Federal Reserve Chairman. He's basically talking about how he is going to work on a digital dollar. And if you guys don't know how the system works now, basically the Federal Reserve is a private company. It loans money to the government through bonds or IOUs that they lend out and people buy. And, they're traded notes. Like, you guys would be insanely surprised with how many derivatives are out there and how much paper money that doesn't even exist. It's just like IOUs. It's in the trillions, hundreds of trillions. And it's not even like real currency that floats through our system, but it is. It's really interesting. So the Federal Reserve is kind of taking on this digital dollar project. And what they've said, and he didn't announce, the specifics, but it's going to be a very important year. So they're going to work on it, and they're definitely talking about it right now. He emphasized the Fed won't make decisions and present them to the public, but will rather talk with Americans about the trade-offs involved with the digital dollar project. So if we get a digital dollar that's backed by the central bank, do you know what that means, guys? It means that you're going to have a wallet address, a digital wallet address that's held at the Federal Reserve. And the Federal Reserve is going to issue your money directly from there. Just digital, press a button, goes into your wallet. And every single thing you do and spend money on, they're going to have a ledger on all of those things, a ledger on all of it. And they're going to know every single thing you do. I don't like it, guys. I think it's terrifying. I think it's the biggest invasion of privacy we've ever seen. If you guys don't like Google tracking where you go, then you are not going to like this, because this is your money. They're going to be able to dissect who you are as a person based on your spending habits. This is a freaky future. I mean, this is like George Orwell. I mean, that guy was a man, ahead of his time. This is scary, guys. I don't know what to say. I do think it will become a reality, sadly enough, and that is why I believe and support digital decentralized currencies, because I personally think money needs to be decentralized, because every single time there's a man at the top that controls all the money, we always have problems. So that's all my rant on this. We don't have a lot of details, but I've looked into CBDCs, central banking digital currencies, and that's basically the outline. Is they're going to follow you everywhere you go and every single dollar you spend. So with all that being said, buy Bitcoin, support decentralization, and maybe we can actually have a future where money is fair and free. That's what I'd like to see, guys. I don't know about you, but that's just my opinion. That makes it for the video, and I'll leave timestamps below so you guys can skip to what's relevant for you. And let me know if you like the video and what you want to see in the future. All right, guys.